Ambassador Bloomfield, I have Ms. Rajavi's 10-point plan for future Iran, and what she says about women is complete gender equality in the realms of political, social, cultural, and economic rights, an equal participation of women in political leadership, abolishment of any form of discrimination, the right to choose one's own clothing freely, the right to freely marry and divorce, and to obtain education and employment, prohibition of all forms of exploitation against women under any pretext. That sounds pretty democratic to me.
The path toward a free, secular, democratic, and non-nuclear Iran is laid out in Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan, which will ensure that the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom for every Iranian to choose their elected leaders becomes the foundation upon which this new Iran is built.
Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan for the future of Iran will ensure freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and the freedom of every Iranian to choose their elected leaders.
She has been a beacon in the wilderness to gather together those who support a free Iran in which the people of that country can enjoy equal freedoms, equal rights before the courts. They will have the power to assemble, the right to express their own views, and the right to worship as they choose. So that's what the regime in Iran fears most.
The vision of a free Iran is enshrined in Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan, which is truly Jeffersonian in its principles and in its aspirations. The plan is a beacon of hope for a better future for the Iranian people. It calls for the separation of religion and state, protection of human rights, and the establishment of a fair and independent judiciary, all critical components of a democratic and just society.
Mrs. Rajavi and the 10-point plan provide the vision for effective action and the means to ensure a peaceful transition to a secular, non-nuclear, democratic, and free Iran. Mrs. Rajavi, I stand with you. I stand with you.
After this revolution, will you blossom into a new structure for a peaceful Iran, open to human imagination, even as you provide the foundations for a new government? Will you rally the technocrats, the fence-sitters, the still uncommitted, the fearful millions into a new system that's been so skillfully articulated, but's not yet been tested by the fires of fear and revenge? Will you be able to provide both the justice and the forgiveness to heal a great civilization? Will you meet the needs and wishes of all the citizens of Iran? I believe the answers to these questions are in Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan.
If you read Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan, you think in part you're reading the Bill of Rights from the American Constitution. To have a plan that gives us and the people of Iran the confidence that when the day comes, hopefully before next Nowruz, when this government falls, that there will not be chaos. There will be a smooth and inclusive transition.
I want to just say a word about this 10-point plan. As I understand it, this is the third option. I've read through that. I like it. I think it's very well done. Support for the ballot box, support for a pluralist system, separation of the church and state, complete gender equality, a modern legal system, support for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, support for private property, support for peaceful coexistence, support for a free Iran.
And it's a special honor to follow Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, President-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, which has put forth a 10-point plan for a democratic Iran, which includes being governed by a rule of law, so fundamental to a free and just society. And this plan has been endorsed by 224 members of both political parties in the new 118th Congress.
Because it is that 10-point plan, it is that inspired leadership of Madam Rajavi that is really going to bring democracy, freedom, human rights, all of the things that are going to extinguish this awful, insidious virus of religious fascism and help replace it with the kind of society that will allow the great people of a historic civilization of Persia to thrive and to once again lead the world in literature and art, in thought and democracy.
We know that also Mrs. Maryam Rajavi, that she has put forward a 10-point plan. And this is something that she has been very consistent on from the very beginning. Her 10-point plan, importantly, calls on the people of Iran to have freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom to choose their own leaders. And the people of Iran clearly want that, and they want protection of their fundamental rights.
Our vision is clear. It is Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan. Iran will be democratic. Women will be respected with equal rights. It will be non-nuclear. It will be at peace with its neighbors and its friends. It will assure a quality, free life for the Iranian people. There will be no compromise. We will stand for no less.